Welcome back, everyone, to the second part of today's meeting. We are going to move on to item 10.7, the adoption of the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw and Statement of Proposal for Consultation Report. It's certainly made up a good chunk of your agenda pack this time around. We have got Tim and Nikki with us to discuss, and a reminder that Councillor Bosley and I sit on the joint committee for policy as well, so we can answer any questions. And there is quite the list of recommendations to go through, but we will address those after some questions and discussion.
So the two of you aren't casting your votes, or?
Yeah, the two of us will vote, yeah, but we can answer any questions that you might have as we've worked through. There's no conflict.
Cool.
We have worked through the beginning phases of this update to the policy, the bylaw. Over to you, Nikki and Tim.
Thank you, Chair. So this, we're here today for the adoption of the draft Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw, the statement of proposal to go out for consultation. This bylaw is quite large, so acknowledge and thank you all for the amount of reading that has been included today. The bylaw was made in June 2019 and came into force in July 2019. So under legislation, it is due for review and will expire in June 2026. So I'll expire then. Just to give you a bit of background information, it was delegated to 3 councils to undertake work on this bylaw. About a year's worth of work has gone into so far. It beginning of last year with work with the 3 councils and the officers to go through every section of this bylaw to see if the bylaw was addressing all the issues, if anything had changed, and if the bylaw was still fit for purpose. Following that, there was a collection of council data and other external data to make sure that the bylaw was fit for purpose against the data that had been received. There was stakeholder engagement to collect initial and feedback, which included some engagement with the Māori Standard Committee around the beauty section for taking out traditional Māori practice and removing that from the bylaw. We also made sure, as part of the Wairarapa policy working group, that the consolidated bylaw aligned with the district plan, the wastewater disposal policy, town water supply policy, irrigation policy, dog control policy, traffic, and other policies that each of the councils had. It has undergone a legal review, and a lot of the changes that are here in front of you today is related to that work which has taken place. We have got a number of small changes. There's not a huge significant change in this bylaw for South Wairarapa. The changes have come about on feedback that we've got to make it more succinct, easier to read, including definitions and things like that. And also just to tighten up and add in a few extra sections to parts of this bylaw around health and safety. So just to give you a bit of a summary of the aspects that particularly apply to the South Wairarapa, public areas is something which we've seen just a few changes and additions added to, and this is related to accessibility for things like footpaths and outdoor areas and public areas related to dining sandwich boards, so that we have variety there. Opening up in regards to keeping with animals, in regards to minimising nuisance and risks for health and safety. There is also some changes around needing vehicles parking on the roads, especially related to businesses, needing to seek household permission for storage on the roads. There is some changes in regards to cemeteries, especially in relation to damage, and providing some clarity for office workers around how we deal with cemeteries. There is Tahoto on Marae, which I mentioned earlier in regards to beauty therapy and some additional beauty practices, just some clarification and some reading and typing there. And also the wastewater, looking to introduce that customers in lower income need to contact the local authority if they suspect a blockage in the wastewater network. So we are here today to request adoption for the draft bylaws, consultation and get the next opportunity for some additional.
I think that's the key to all of this, is that this is the approval of the consultation process, not the bylaw in and of itself. Councillor Bodley, did you want to make any comment before we go to general questions?
No, only that it was great you've allowed 15 minutes for this discussion to take place in the agenda.
Any questions for
Mr.
Kenny or Assistant Tim this afternoon?
I suggest that we
Can I
move
just
to,
have some clarification with regards about objectional markings on monuments or other structures that is not allowed? With regards to cemeteries? So who decides what's objectionable? Page 134. So if it's been put on there by the family members and then someone else comes into the cemetery and says that they were just so offended by what was put on there, who decides what's objectionable? Does that mean that, you know, I'm just asking for this, as this is one of the changes that we're looking at, and I do have some concerns.
A lot of this is related to graffiti, so things that have been put on our public spaces. So the bylaw looked that was something that was needing some additional work. So it's related to more to do with things.
Swastikas on George Graham's house.
Excellent, excellent. I just don't want it to have anything to do with what people choose to put on, you know,
Oh,
in those places.
no, it's more, yeah,
No, and
tracing.
yeah, so one of the things that we looked at was making sure that the tools the enforcement officers had, particularly around anything that was raised as a concern from our community, that was offensive, that was causing harm physically, mentally, emotionally from.
Graffiti. So not, yeah, I really just want to make sure that that's really clear in that one, because I think what people choose for their family members, you know, that is something that's for them. I just think that
Yeah,
it's opening a whole lot of.
no, that's not like that.
Would that include our urupa? Because they're not public cemeteries?
No, it's not never public spaces.
Any other questions?
Colin was going to say something.
no, I was just going to move.
And Colin was just like,
There you go.
I thought I did
There
move.
you go.
It's consultation,
I agree, Colin, sorry, because there's no other fast hands.
No.
I'm going to take this moment. There are 11 recommendations. I will read them, but I am going to chance my arm and try and get them all moved at once. So I'm looking for a mover, please, to note that a joint review of the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw, the bylaw, is underway. And to determine that in accordance with section 1551 of the Local Government Act 2002, a bylaw is the most appropriate way of addressing the perceived problems. 3, determine that in accordance with section 1552A of the Local Government Act 2002, the draft bylaw is the most appropriate form of bylaw. Determine that in accordance with section 1552B of the Local Government Act 2002, the draft bylaw does not give rise to any implications under the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act of 1990. 5, endorse the recommendations of the Wairarapa Policy Working Group to adopt the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw Statement of Proposal Attachment 1 and draft Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw Attachment 2 for adoption by the Wairarapa District Council Community Consultation. 6, delegate authority to the Chief Executive to amend Part 9 Water Supply Law and update the Statement of Proposal if required prior to publication to reflect external legal advice due in late April 2025. Haven't got any update on that. No. 7, delegate authority to the Chief Executive to approve minor edits that do not alter the intent of the content prior to publication of the draft bylaw. Note the consultation using the special consultant procedure is proposed to run between 14 May and 13 June 2025, excluding trade waste. Note that it extended 2 months consultation period from 14 May to 14 July 2025 is proposed for the part relating to trade waste to meet our requirements under section 148 of the Wairarapa Act. Note that the Wairarapa Policy Working Group will hear submissions on 16 July 2025 and undertake deliberations on 23 July 2025. And to note that Councillor Melissa Savage-Woodall will chair the Wairarapa Council, the Wairarapa Policy Working Group hearings and deliberations in the absence of Councillor Robin Cherry Campbell with the PDC. Thank you, Councillor Gray. And the second, please, thank you, Councillor Old. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, say no. Motion is carried. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yay, all those words.
I'll actually just say, so Nikki and Stephanie from the MDC have done an unbelievable amount of work on.
Yeah, God, it's impressive.
Yeah, it's been extraordinary amount of work done. Stephanie is unfortunately leaving soon, which will be a huge loss to you.
She left us.
Oh, yeah, well, true. Yes. Now she's going to Kapiti, so. Or where.
Which is better than us.
But anyway, thank you very much.
They'll be buying stuff.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Moving right along to information reports, we will start with 11.1, the CEO KPI progress report. Janice.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take the report as read. We have followed on from the previous report that went through the Chief Executive Employment Committee and there's the strategy working, just to update you on progress with KPIs. Things that I just want to bring to your attention are around the customer-centric response to how we operate. And we've attached to there the report that came to the previous strategy working committee around how we were going to approach that. Work is starting to take shape now around mapping our customer journey and how we can change our systems to better reflect queries and things that come from the community. And the end result of that hopefully will be some form of reporting that we can come back to you with. Obviously, the big one in here is around making sure that we are fully represented for local water still, which we are. And the other one to note on page 635 is the procurement policy being reviewed. I have started that review and I've recently been looking at the new government procurement rules because they have been changed recently as well. So that is now in progress. I'll take questions. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Janice on the KPIs, please? And if you're trying to find them, you'll need to scroll.
632.
632.
The consolidated.
Is this, sorry, Janice, through you, Madam Chair, is this the first time we've seen this report?
No, it's the second.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
It's the update.
stretch my mind back, given the,
I think it was before Christmas, so
Okay.
the first quarterly update.
excellent. Thanks, Janice.
And we also agreed at that point that these would be public, so that's why this report's come to strategy.
Excellent.
Janice, I have a question. One of the delivery KPIs is capital projects.
32.
I'm just wondering how external factors impact that one. So obviously, internally, you can do all you can to make sure that they are
Oh, yeah, we-
delivered. But there's always be various external factors in place to mitigate.
I think the key part to that is that capital projects are delivered to plan and any deviation from plan is approved by council. So you're all aware of the issues that we're having around a couple of our projects at the moment, such as the Telefónica pipeline, and they're having to delay that because of the time of year that we're in. So they are beyond our control. So I do try and make sure that anything like that comes to your attention, be that through a formal report back to this committee or through the no surprises response, and I email you to let you know if we've got anything significant that's changing our plans.
Excellent.
Thank you. Any further questions before we move on? Councillor Graham.
The report, great seeing, very heavy. The only one I wanted to flag, which is probably no surprises, I would flag this, but around the regional climate change and waste management implementation plans. So when you're talking about the comments on measures, you've addressed the waste minimisation plan, but there's no addressing of the climate change strategy.
No, not at this point. There is going to be a potential change of delivery around how we approach climate. We won't have a dedicated resource to climate change once the code staff member leaves, so away left. So we're looking at how we reshape that in terms of climate change strategy as opposed to
policy into action.
action. Yeah.
An opportunity for movement there. I guess just from my point of view, I think quite good to have those two things separated out because they are quite different issues.
Yep.
But they, yeah. Thank you.
Well made. Anything else before we move on to action items? That being the case, we will thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
And completely agree with agree. Action items 11.2. Any updates from any of the officers in the room and any questions from committee members? Just remembering that the ones that have been actioned will noted as action today. Will be
What page is that on?
Four.
Sorry?
643.
All over the place. Yeah.
Councillor Olds, keep up.
Yeah, I know. I'm just a bit sluggish.
This is why he's not running against.
Suzanne.
Not as sharp as I used to be.
Say 643. 644.
It's 4-4.
643.
I'd like to think that we have seen the action.
Are you on,
Trying to move along.
are you in the Alexa Lounge or are you on?
I think everything was self-explanatory. I think there was a few,
Before
yeah,
coming. Others are just.
Which is always
yeah,
fantastic.
like burning ones, was there?
That brings us to item
It's right.
13.1. So this is councillor feedback from community boards and Māori Standing Committee.
Stuff all through.
Because I know that violence really will start with violence. But we'll move on to the community boards. Yeah.
We had a really awesome toy last night. Went forever. But
Go a while.
we did it. We had quite a few funding applications come through.
Yeah.
Quite a few of them didn't fit Māori Standing Committee criteria, and we talked about the Māori ward, and Narita gave us a whole lot of information to share with our whānau about about Action Station, if anybody's heard of them. So they're a 600,000 strong community, and when Ihu Mātau happened, they were the ones that arranged everybody to
Action to get there, yeah.
and they put out a lot of information, and it's really understandable. There's no big words in it, so anybody will understand how to follow it. So they could probably that information will probably be able to help our prospective Māori wards or new councillors come on, because the group Te Maruata, they are a group of actually Māori elected councillors from around the whole of New Zealand. And so I've just sent Mel some stuff so she can join it.
Okay.
So yeah, and they'll help our wards and our new elected, if any Māori ones come through, to be able to navigate their way through sitting on a council and all that stuff. So yeah, good little group. And then we talked about, all that legislation that goes with it. Thank you, Nikki. Blew our brains. Also Monday, because Leanne is now resigned from the Masterton Council.
Oh.
And she is now on the Wairarapa Moana statutory board.
Oh,
She's our.
Yeah.
So
oh,
get a lot of stuff.
oh, yeah.
So yeah, so she's on that. So, and she'll be, any projects we have with our
Yeah.
our Moana, she's the lady, will send it.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
her induction, her pohiri is on Monday at Waiata House, eh?
Not way out the house.
Who's June?
Oh, yeah, it's she,
Mm,
Kahununu, yeah.
mm.
If anyone wants to attend. We also, yeah, we had 16 applications. We discussed grant accountability. When it comes to the funding applications and stuff, and, you know, getting a bit tighter there. And also over the Easter weekend, all our Wairarapa marae, including Puakani, all came to the Wairarapa. We had thousands of whānau come home to represent each marae. So even our marae that don't have an actual building, the hapu still exists, so they all join in too. And a tono matua might put a tono out to Hauariki to join us. You're not a tūpuna marae, but you're still a marae,
Mm.
and you're in the Wairarapa. Yeah. So hopefully Hikawera will get one too, and Waihinga, so that, because, you know, it's still a marae from the past, so that South Wairarapa will have more teams. And
Yes.
Akura marae won overall. It was primo. It was just about every sport: CrossFit, basketball, volleyball, kiorahi, touch, tug of war, and the last was kapahaka. So every marae did a performance, and we left it up to our rangatahi too. So Hirunui Orangi Marae hosted this year. Next year it'll be Tumapuhia. So they'll probably come into town and do it.
Nice.
So hopefully, if we've got all our South Wairarapa marae in there, we could be hosting quite a few of them together.
That'd be cool.
So it's going to happen every year, Easter at the moment, because that's a long weekend where our we had whānau come from overseas and everything. So, and during Easter, our economy would just boost up. The Wairarapa.
Can I just raise something though? One of the things that we did notice, and I guess we tend to see it a lot, and not just in the Māori Standing Committee space, but it was more than what we'd usually have, of receiving applications that just don't sit, they don't fit. You know, people have to reach a certain criteria to be able to, and one of those things is, you know, like are they asking for it in the right place? And there was some that just, it wasn't the right fit, and I don't understand how it gets to that point. And I think that there possibly, if there's any way that we could get our officers to have a look at what is being asked, because if that can be advised to go to another area, that would be the correct area. It's probably going to sit a little bit better, and because some of them, you know, they don't have a lot of time either to ask for, you know, the funding. But a lot, you know, we're a small council, and a lot of these people are volunteers, or, you know, like, will live out rurally, and so it's a lot to kind of get them here, and then it doesn't fit. So that would be a really good thing if there could be just something looked at that we tighten that up a little bit.
His hand up, so he's not.
No, we just to answer that question, actually, we've already started reviewing the grants process.
Yeah.
And with respect to some of our applicants, we were finding that there were numerous occasions of double and triple dipping, or people going to the, or applicants going to the wrong committees. And so some of them were legitimate in terms of the double requests, but but that is already started. It's already in the right council.
Fantastic. You know, we're quite blessed now that we have the access to that the big machine that tells us all the different types of funding as well. So if it's not necessarily, we don't even have to say, go to this one within the South Wairarapa District Council. There may be another one that would fit what what the
And
requirements
you
are.
may remember that one of the function of Lena in her role is to help access to other funding sources other than.
Yeah.
That was great about having Lena there last
Yeah.
night too, because
We can do
it
that.
meant we weren't just, it wasn't just going to be a no. We could give them further information so they would leave with their mana intact
Yeah.
instead of heads down. So, yeah, so that was awesome. So we could put them onto
Yeah.
different things.
Amazing, thank you.
Yeah.
Great feedback, great to talk back.
So for the South Wairarapa, another awesome thing for one of our sports people. So Hedda Edwards, who, I just got them, but she whakapapa
Yeah.
Nui, and she grew up here with
With me.
the Carter whānau. She was raised
Yeah.
partially with him and went to Martinborough School. So she's off to Germany with the New Zealand Black Dragons squad for the
Dragon Boat.
Bolts. So she's been to the Wheels a few times and they've come back with gold and silver. She's an old lady now.
Yeah, I'll think.
So she's still doing it and getting in the world.
Thank you.
Tiny.
Greytown Community Board feedback.
Isn't it?
Greytown, has been focusing really on its, LTP submission, particularly around the, expansion of the Arbour Reserve at the entrance where you come into Greytown, wanted to make that bigger. They've been working on their volunteer expo, which is coming up on the 8th of June. Plans are underway for another Matariki event at Neil Morrison's place out at Morrison's Bush. And also work is being done on the Arbor Day anniversary. And they're looking at a partnership to secure the Greytown Santa Parade, which has been near for the last couple of years. And has been focusing really on increasing its communications engagement with acting as a go-between between the community and government agencies, including South Wairarapa District Council, particularly in that roading space. So one of those, an example of that is that Tim's gone on it back there, with the addition of 3 parking spaces on McMaster Street, waiting for the milk station that was in there. Yeah, dealing with PowerCo, some stuff happening on Battersea Road. And have I missed anything, do you think?
I wasn't at the meeting. But one thing, speaking of young sports stars, Greytown's done pretty well lately. We had Connolly and Alexander and Will Cole both made the Hurricanes under 20 side. And then Will Cole went on to make the New Zealand under 20s from there. So,
South Wairarapa.
Fiddleston Community Board, with its new community board representative.
Well, I'm only the newbie. Rebecca, she has all the inside bully, so.
First time.
I probably had too much to say on my first meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's something you could update in the agenda for today. Names Melissa is saying like, oh, I'm bad. She has left us. So, yeah, I mean, I guess updates from the Featherstone Community Board. We had a lovely councillor Olds joining us now, meaning his many years of wisdom and support to decision making. We've talked a lot about grants and how we give grants and who we would give them to. We had some amazing people come and talk to us on in particular about a mural in Featherstone. I'm sure there'll be more information coming out about that soon, but super exciting about that. And yeah, again, addressing road naming is the thing that comes up fairly frequently. Yeah. Feels like it was a very long time ago. We had a really good report from John Dennison, the deputy chair of the community board around berm planting. So looking forward to that coming up to this table for discussion.
I think
Beep.
land, that's going to come to the table at some stage. You know, some work being done about that.
What's that one?
Yeah, so there's some work being done around the investment, the funds we have available effectively for a investment in Featherstone. So I would imagine a paper will come to this council table at some stage once we've got some a report back from officers. So.
Isaac, look forward to seeing it.
Mm.
Martinborough Community Board. Do you want to share?
Just following on from my comments earlier on about the speed management plan, the petition that Martinborough Community Board initiated, which provided over 100 signatures in support of our CE's letter to the Minister of Transport. Community board members also came across community members who are keen to reconsult or be involved and provide submissions on this on the next stage, as they didn't agree with some of the decisions or some of the commentary that was in the interim or the original speed management plan documents. So there is, I suppose, as a result of that petition and the discussions that have happened around that table about speed management plan, there is an increasing level of knowledge within or engagement within Martinborough, which is great. The community board was active over Easter when the community market was held here in the Waihinga Centre, and they had a stand. They were speaking to members of the community and visitors about the community emergency hub, and there was also some feedback from rural residents about wanting to be involved or have a similar facility set up in the rural settlements. I don't know specifically which ones, but that's just some great work that the community board have done around the emergency hub with Nigel and Paul in that space. They also had a site visit around the Payne Estate homestead to have a look at the property there. They're wanting to have a second site visit and have a look inside the building. There is an insurance payout which the Payne Estate Fund or Community Board have received, which needs to be spent. So they're working on looking to see where that money needs to go with regards to the property. So I think that's about it. We've got our next meeting on Thursday night, so there'll be more coming out of that, no doubt. Please.
Talk back to everyone and some really good work happening in our community boards and over at the Māori Centre Committee as well. So well done for your involvement and the work that's happening here. That brings us to the excluded portion of our meeting. I'm looking for a mover to enter into public excluded please. Thank you, Violet. The reasons for moving to public excluded item 14.1. This relates to details included in the appointment to Wairarapa Safe Community. No, that's from the previous minutes. 14.2 transitioning water services update. This relates to further discussions on the future of water services. 14.3 bylaw paper road relates to the consultation timeframe being later in the year and initially completing key stakeholder engagement with direct members of the Cape Palliser community. And 14.4 public excluded action items relates to previous public excluded reports and minutes, including items on Lake Ferry, land purchase and SWDC accommodations. So all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. The motion is carried and we'll now turn off the live stream. Just to note that the recording will continue for a minute